Thanks for your patience. Let's welcome our panelists to the stage. We have Carel Struycken. Is everyone still out in the lobby? Can you just let me know? Do some mic sharing. Where were you like? Okay, so we have Segal, Gregg, Paula, Shimatsu-U, Lenny von Dohlen, Robert Bauer, and Richard Hoover. Paula, why don't you come next to me?
Oh, okay. Lucky me.
Oh, is there one straight to me? Oh, no, where's Bobby?
Robert Bauer.
I saw him outside too.
He's here.
Welcome.
Hi. Is this thing on?
So we have to do a little bit of mic sharing. Is your mic on? Awesome.
Our favorite line. Is this thing on? Is this
There he is, Robert Bauer.
Hey.
So, Phil, I wanted to start with you tonight to talk a little bit about some of the climate of TV at the time when ABC decided to order the pilot. Can you give us a little bit of an idea as to what you were looking for and where the network was at the time?
Well, I think at the time it was another transition for television. Situation comedies were getting very weak. In fact, a year before, Disney had actually announced that they were out of the comedy business. That it was a dead art form. And I think there was a tremendous amount of network erosion. Cable was bubbling up, and so it was one of those things where I think it was a decision to try and reach a fresh audience, see what they could do in terms of bringing the audience down, the age group down, but also trying to just extend beyond the people who were watching. The network had a very specific audience, and it seemed to be tuning in on very specific nights. Thursdays were skewing very, very old. Fridays we brought in a young group for comedy. Wednesdays seemed to be skewing very female, so it was very bizarre. It was this very fractured kind of world. And this was one of those noble experiments that was put out, partially because obviously David and Mark together was an amazing package, and I think partly because it seemed like the right time to try a mystery.
So when did you know that you were going to actually go forward with the series itself?
Well, the 2-hour was not met with applause by the network. At the time, they screened the pilot and were thoroughly confused. They didn't know what they were watching. Didn't know whether we were watching the comedy. They didn't know whether they were watching the drama. It seemed like it was somewhere in between. You wanted to laugh at it, and yet it played very serious. It was very confusing to a lot of the brass. These were a lot of Cap Cities guys, and there was an older management team. And ad sales was very stiff, very tired, and this was just frightening. So they said, forget it, we're not putting this on the air, we're burying it. So they put it on the air in the summer because there happened to be a hole in the schedule. So it was not promoted, the 2-hour was put on the air, and it did a ridiculous number. I think at the time a 32 share. It was a ridiculous number, and it just, they didn't know what to do. They were beside themselves. I mean, everybody was spinning around in circles. And how quickly can we get more? Make more, make more, make more now. And so, so it was one of those confluences where the audience, fortunately, was given an opportunity to see something, and they decided they liked it. And that's one of the tragedies of TV is too many people in suits are making decisions, creative decisions, and that's why we narrowcast today. We don't broadcast.
Well, so Gregg, tell us a little bit about the way that you and Phil work together. Knowing that you have to basically kind of mitigate the artistic vision with the very pragmatic needs of the network.
We gave him fake scripts. I'm not kidding. Actually, Phil and I, we conspired a lot behind the scenes together, and subsequent to that, we ended up forming a television company together. So that's how much we met on that show, right?
Yeah.
That's where we met.
Yeah, we
and
did.
we became very close friends and literally formed a partnership through this sort of conspiring. So, but it was, once we got rolling, and I wasn't involved in the pilot. I came in for reshoots on the pilot series. So but we knew we had something so bizarre. Phil recognized that there was something very unique going on. So he kind of was really the bridge between all of us crazy people on the production and all the really crazy people at the network. And he was the one who navigated between them and kind of helped us figure out, how to be able to do what we were doing without too much intervention. But then it really did come to the final. It was the first season, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Well, I don't know how much you want to know and not know about what happened.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't go.
We could be here all night talking about that. But essentially, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Essentially, there was an additional 6 episodes that were ordered, but the Who Killed Laura Palmer line was really what drove everything crazy, because the truth.
Before, just so you know, there are people watching it for the first time.
Oh, sorry.
And we haven't. We're very close, but we haven't hit that.
Okay,
yet.
I'll say nothing.
No.
What episode was that we just watched?
So we just watched the 5th episode of the 2nd season.
What does that mean?
I said 7, and then we did 7, and then we did 22. So that was the 5th one.
That was the one. Okay, I got it now.
Who directed that?
Was that Leslie?
It was
Leslie Glotto.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
Sorry. So no. I just whatever. You could talk about the decision without actually just saying it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The decision to go forward?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was ordered after the pilot did big numbers, but then they wanted very specific details on how the show was going to unfold, and that was an impossible task.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Well, so Richard, you came on board for the series, right? And Patricia Norris was the original production designer for the pilot. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, what sort of new things you had to bring in, knowing that some of these sets were already established. What were some of the more sort of fun, challenging things to create?
Well, the sets for the series were built on stage. I think we had 6 weeks to get it rolling, and so there's a certain amount of matching we had to do with locations that were up and around Seattle, and then we had to take liberties to try to fit it within the stage. And in fact, we had 2 stages, and they were in Van Nuys near the airport, and much to everyone's chagrin, because they wanted to be in Seattle, right at the beginning of Starbucks or something. But no, it was in Van Nuys, and really Patty had really established the Northwest, because they were up there, and it was moody and gray, and so we just started to riff on it, and to expand the Great Northern Hotel from its lobby. I think there was a meeting room in the lobby of the pilot, and we just imagined it, and took her leadership, you know, what she had done. And then on the stage, it's both a challenge of imagination and space. So often things were built inside of things, and I'm still doing that.
Well, for our three actors, I'm curious to know a little bit about how Mark and David described your characters to you and what that process was like getting cast.
Not a word. The only, well, I do remember the very first moment I came on the set, and it was also the first time I met David Lynch in person, and he walked up to me and said, "Everything is just going to be peachy keen." And I'd never heard I'd never even heard of that expression, but it's kind of 50s. Yeah.
They basically put me in touch with.
Sorry.
Okay. It was Haley and Mark. They put me in touch with a group called the Homebound Society, and that was that's when my education began, and so that was helpful. And they were just gents and collaborative, and they make actors feel. They encourage your inventiveness, and you feel part of this spell that Mr. Lynch cast, you know, from the beginning, and that's very liberating. I don't know if that answers the question.
I was a young actor, and I was out of town, and this was before cell phones, and maybe it was right around the beginning of cell phones when they were really big. And I think I was skiing, and I came back, and I had a shitload of messages from my agent who said Joanna Ray wants to meet you for this project. And I remember going in and meeting Joanna, and I guess David had pulled my picture from a boatload of photographs. And then she asked me to come back and meet Mark. And I met Mark and auditioned with Mark. And I think my agents had wound me up to expect that it was going to be a test, but it was nothing. It was the coolest, most wonderful sort of entree for a young actor into this magical world, and to be lucky enough to actually be on a TV show. So it was really cool. So David had picked this photograph. I met with Mark. We did a bunch of ad lib in the room, and it was as easy as that. And then I met David the first episode that I did, which he directed.
So I want to just briefly read you a little bit about the many, many things that Paula was working on for the show, since there's a lot of amazing things that I think most of the fans still delight in.
Just a moment. I wanted to bring up a quote from Gregg Fienberg towards the end of my time at Lynch Frost. And I remember Gregg was just so frustrated with me. He just looked at me and said, "I don't know what it is you do. What do you do here? I can't control you with title or money. How do I control you? What do you do?" And I just looked at him and I said, "If you don't know what I do by now, it doesn't matter." But actually, Gregg was very correct, because I feel that everyone, including Mark and David, hadn't a clue of many of the things that were pretty integral to what took place in Twin Peaks time. So I'll let you go with that, but I've been thinking about what you said all these years, and I was like, you were right. You were right.